Well, I'm down at a garden that got called the Pretty Garden, and it is getting pretty. Look at these nice dahlia type things here. Those almost seem like they're a cross between the native ones and ones that I brought in. Uh, we've got trees growing down here, Nisperos, citrus, a lot of happy butterflies today. I don't even know what that is. Um, we've got some nut trees. This is some kind of a tree that has cool flowers over here. Now we didn't start that a year and a half ago. We started that one a long time ago. But last year was the first year where we really focused on it a bit more. Decided to take over this area. Some lettuce growing over there. We put a tank of water up here so we can water things in the dry season, which normally I'm against, but you know, my rules don't come from God. I just make them up based on what seems smart. And so, look, we got some nice rosemary in here. The goal with all of this stuff in this garden is to grow things without any irrigation. But this last year, I knew I had a lot of extra water because I haven't had a lot of people here. And so we did water some stuff. And the idea is that, some of these things will barely survive and they'll take forever to develop unless we do water them. There's some ornamental ginger over there, or maybe it's ginger. I don't know. We've got some rosemaries in here that look like they're just about dead. You might want to pay attention to those. But we've got so many other successes with rosemary. But the point is that we get things going in a way, and we get a canopy of enough high enough plants, several layers of plants that that the plants we want here dominate. If we don't do anything here, it just grows over for now. So we actually did some weed whacking work in here, which is noisy. I'm not a huge fan, but I'm experimenting with my rules and what I can get away with. And I've spent a lot of years doing agriculture in a way that is not successful and certainly not profitable. But that's okay, because I think that the way a lot of agriculture is done, way too much resources are used. A lot of fossil fuel based fertilizers, which is just a totally wrong direction to go in. I have a rule that I don't buy outside fertilizer, but here's some manure I bought. I don't know why it didn't all get used up. And so I have to explore the boundaries. And in order to do that, if I want to do agriculture using less energy and less resources, then I have to let some things fail. But some things succeed, like this plant's been in this barrel for a while. This is called Vaporoo, and it smells like vapor rub. See that? Very successful. It likes being in this barrel. Now, we've tried that plant in other spots around here, I believe, and it hasn't done as well. So for some reason, it likes that barrel. And then also does well at one other spot up by another building on its own, no water. So next year, or this year, I guess, when the dry season comes, I'll have to make some decisions about what we water and what we don't. Because I don't want stuff to die. I want to get it to a point where it can live on its own. But like this nut tree over there, that little one, that'll probably die if we don't water it this year. So we'll water it. And then as far as the grasses and everything, some of which are not native, they're invasive actually. Some of those we can fix that with bringing in a lot of mulch, and we have a pretty much infinite supply of composted oak leaves under oak trees. So they just, there's layers of really thick layers of compost that we can collect and put here. The hard part about that is that that's a huge amount of work. I mean, we're talking about thousands of of trips of wheelbarrow loads, probably 400 or 500 just right here, and I've got other gardens I'm working on. So that's a tricky problem. Um, but this is the way we solved agricultural problems. Look at this orchid over here is doing great, and it's got a whole bunch of seed pods at the top. And it's too bad that I don't have a microclimate where I can put those, because all those little seeds are going to go on the ground and they'll all die. It's in a spot where it's growing just fine. It's not in a spot where it can reproduce. And almost none of the plants I'm showing you can reproduce on their own. Like I have lime trees. Well, if a lime falls on the ground, it's not going to sprout and make a lime tree, because the climate isn't perfect for that. We grow things that are out of the climate that would be ideal for them. For example, I want to collect a lot of kinds of agave. Well, there's over 100 kinds of agave. Maybe there's 200. I don't know. And I have 4, I think. Actually, I've got maybe 5. And so the 2 native ones, I can grow those, and those can be used to make mezcal and pulque. But I've also planted blue agaves. Those do well in less spots. And the thing to think about with that is microclimates. It's all about the microclimate, because I can put a plant in one place and it will do really well, and I can put a plant in another place and it will just die. And so we have to overplant, we have to over-reproduce. We need to become experts at plant reproduction so that we can put things in lots of places and then find the place that that plant wants to live with very little care. Well, no care, ultimately. Here's one of our black water containers. Oh, that's nice. That's full. That's great. It's the rainy season, and we should have everything be full, because as soon as the rains stop, then we need to be prepared to, again, if I don't have too many people, to again water things and kick it further ahead. And I say that because I've watched things die. I've found out what the harder end of things is, and I want things to succeed. Look, somebody put some corn right here. I've got these timber bamboos that are doing really well because they're down in a little tiny hole, and the water collects in that hole, and so they just got that little bit of extra moisture. So they're doing extremely well, and we know how to reproduce those. Although it's interesting, we planted in 1 year we planted them and they did okay. Then they did okay another year, and then 1 year we put them in, and I think we put them in slightly too late, and they all died, every one of them. Up here's our plant reproduction area. So we've got lots of 5-gallon buckets of stuff. We've got a very unhappy rotting cactus right here. We've got various tomatoes, and we've got ashwagandha. That's a cool plant. Also known as, wait, is that same as toothache plant? I forget. I've got some cedars that if you rub them, they smell like lemon. I bought 2 of those, and they're doing fine in buckets. So there we'll wait a couple years until we figure that they're getting root bound. They've got, the buckets are full. And then we'll put them out in a place we think that they'll do well. Also, we have experimented with doing cuttings on conifers, which I always thought you couldn't do, right? That's too hard. But my friend tried it, because he doesn't know that it's probably not going to work, and he got it to work a little bit. Here's a banana plant. Look at that. I've got more of them. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right in here. Huge leaves. They look exotic as heck. A beautiful plant, and I've got a bunch of them in another spot as well that are flowering. Once they flower, I get a bunch of seeds. If we collect those seeds, we remember and we treat them well, then they'll do fine. And we'll get a whole bunch of these exotic bananas. They're called Musa insete is the species. And in some places in the world, they eat the whole plant of that. Don't trust me on that. But Musa insete. I believe, is one where they can eat the whole thing. And that means we have an emergency food, right? I gotta sit down here. Ugh. Ugh. God damn it. Everything is wobbly. Every single goddamn thing is wobbly. Got some yellow tomatoes over here. We want to make sure to gather the seeds on those. Now, all of the things I'm talking about, all these buckets that we fill with dirt, and right now we're refilling them because we put so much stuff out into the field, right? That's our actual goal, is to get stuff out into the field. And so we put so much stuff out this year that we ended up with a bunch of empty buckets. So now we're filling them up. And some things we'll put cuttings in now and then we'll water them. And some things we'll put seeds in and water them once the rains run out. And then I don't know if we'll have enough to do as much as we want. But all of that takes a huge amount of work. I don't like sitting down. Makes the lighting suck. Look, this looks like rainbow chard right in here. That's pretty cool. We got onions in here. We got figs in reproduction. We've got a few types of grapes. And we put grapes out into the field this year for the first time. In fact, I should go check on those. One of the problems we have is that tusses come and they get in at the roots and they eat the plant. They kill the plant because they eat the roots or tubers that are below. Here we've got avocados. Not that there's a shortage of avocados around here, but I don't have a lot of mature avocados, so I want to get those. We got some mint in here, a couple kinds, strawberries, squash. Orchids have been divided up. That's pretty cool to look at. And we've got figs all over the place now. They actually have fruit on them, and some of those figs came from town. Somebody probably brought those over from Spain a long time ago. But I also was able to locate in a special nursery some other kinds of figs. And since they do so well, once they're established, I should have a collection of all the kinds of figs there are. So let's get back to what I was saying about how much work this is. Right now, it's just a friend of mine and his son helping out twice a week. And that's not enough. And I can't do a lot myself. I'm tired just walking around looking at this stuff, you know. Oh, look at this pretty purple flower over here. Ah, that's a nice one. And I have goals to expand. I have goals to increase reproduction of plants. Oh, another thing we do is we did a lot of grafting this year, more than before. So I've got cherries grafted onto hawthorns. I got some, a little bit more pear, apple, things grafted on hawthorns. So grafting is something we're getting better at. We did some air layering, which is reproducing plants by wrapping a branch in some plastic with some moss in it or some dirt. And then that's supposed to stay wet enough in there. It's not supposed to dry out. Oh, here's mullein right there. It's not supposed to dry out. And unfortunately, we didn't do a very good job wrapping them, in my opinion. Also, the sun here is so harsh that it blows through the plastic. It degrades the plastic too quickly. So I need to find another solution for how to do that better. Anyway, so all these experiments, every plant that we're trying to reproduce, you know, I have a big long spreadsheet of types of plants. It's crazy. I've got easily over 350 plants, species, native and non-native, and things that were here when I moved here and things that I brought in. And it takes hours and hours of work. And that costs because, you know, my friends are not rich folks. They need their family to have support. And so I guess I'll mention that none of this can happen without the support that I get from other people. And I hope that one of those people is you. I'm asking real directly. I've gotten less shy about that. But I really believe that developing different ways of doing agriculture that aren't using a bunch of machines, that aren't using chemical fertilizers and contaminating the soil, that are using no pesticides because we just let the pests exist and we don't have a pest problem. The reason we don't have a pest problem is because we don't use pesticides. If we used pesticides, then we would kill the food of something that eats something else, or we would kill the thing that eats something else. In any case, we have a balance here. You know, and the birds will eat the insects. We just don't have a problem. You know, years ago we had a grasshopper problem. And we collected grasshoppers and ate them. Not raw. We cooked them and dried them. And then, so anyway, the point is this is the way agriculture is supposed to be done. This is the ancient ways of doing agriculture, and we need to rediscover the most ancient ways. You know, the insects love it, the bees love it. Look, there's bees on these little flowers here, honeybees, and there's beehives on the other side of the barranca. So we want to see if we can get things flowering all the time. All year long, we want there to be flowers for birds. Another project I need to work on that's going to cost is I need to have water available for birds all year long in multiple spots. A whole bunch. That's not easy. That requires things like that black tank back there to store a bunch of water, and then we move it from the rainy season to the dry season. You know, there's water down at the lake, and there's way tons of birds down there, and there's a bunch of birds up here, but birds need water, and bees need water, and other insects need water. Well, this is really grown over in here. So setting up like oases, something like that, would make it so that there's more birds, there's more bats, there's more life happening. We want more life to happen. It's not exactly important that we plan that perfectly, you know, but I want owl boxes. I want owl boxes so that they eat the mice that run around and come into my house. Look at this guy. This is probably in the agave family. Nice big cool looking plant, but it has a longer stem. It's not a maguey. And we've been reproducing that. But that takes years of work, you know. This whole garden in here, look, we've got a bird bath with a little bit of water here. This whole garden in here needs to be gone through, and, you know, we need to graft things and clear stuff out and make a trail through it. That's a bunch more work. And so when you are donating, try and think big and suggest your friends donate. If you can't donate comfortably financially, even though that's the best way to do it, then don't. I don't want anybody to suffer because of me and, you know, my odd experiment here. But if you can share the ideas of this whole different way of doing things. We've got a succulent coming out from seed right there. That's another thing we do, is raise things from seed, not just cuttings, and therefore we diversify the genome. And, you know, there's cases where no one does that, and everything is a clone. That puts it at risk for some disease killing it off. Anyway, so if you know of people who are interested in these kind of projects, in this case, agricultural part of it, there's other parts to the Bosque Village project, but if you like the idea of us inventing new ways of doing agriculture, and you want more food security, food sovereignty in communities, right? So that people who have a piece of land will rip out their lawn, or, you know, and plant useful things, and they'll have what's called xeriscaping with an X, so that they don't have to water it. That saves on water. Also, it saves on care because you don't have to mow the lawn I have zero lawn here. I have 83 acres and no lawn. You know, doesn't mean that, I couldn't put in a little patch of lawn somewhere. It's, but if I have to water it and fertilize it and weed it, no. And then people who are managing larger pieces of land like forests can look at how that forest is working, and they can adjust the forest in very subtle ways to have a greater amount of diversity, a greater amount of space for wildlife. And so if you know of people who get excited by that kind of thing, then forward them my stuff, forward them this video, and go ahead and sign up on whatever crowdfunding we have going on right now. I have Patreon at the moment, and I want to do crowdfunding for specific projects so that people feel like they're part of that individual project that might give them more of a connection to it. Like this is a really big project right here. This is a place where I'm changing the forest. And there'll be some people that say, don't change anything, never cut a tree down. Nonsense. We have been sculpting forests for thousands and thousands of years. And we lived in simpler ways because of that. And so in this particular special spot, this garden is temporarily called Alicante. It's not a name I'm real thrilled with. But we cut down the pines. We're going to come down in here and we're going to kill all the white oaks because the white oaks lose their leaves, and I want spots of shade and I want protection from wind. There's ridges on either side of this. I'm facing almost east, so I get the morning light, which is when I want it the most, is to warm it up after the a cold night, because it gets cold up here. This is a cold place. And then this ridge over here will block most of the year. It'll block the late day sun, and that way when the dew comes down, as the temperature falls, there'll be more dew on the ground, and it makes the whole thing moister. Above this, I did bulldozer work, and I cut a road that causes water to come into this gully. Normally, you would guide water to ridges. That's called keyline design, and that would spread the water out more. Well, here, I am concentrating it more, and I'm going to make more terraces. We've made a few up here at great expense. I mean, it's shovel work. It's hard work, really hard work. And I've got this huge area. It goes way up there to the furthest trees you can see. And I want then to, as I clear out space, I get rid of the white oaks. I leave the madrones. I leave the black oaks or sculpt them. I might top them off. That will free up space so that I can plant fruit trees, because it's going to be a little bit warmer and wetter in here. And, we are humans. We like fruit trees. I mean, I plant plenty of stuff where the birds eat it all. And I don't even like that stuff anyway. But, so this is really thinking at a very big scale in a long time period to make slow decisions about an entire space. And as far as a percentage of the entire Bosque goes, this is less than 2%. So I'm not changing the whole forest, but I'm picking spots where I have an opportunity. And then also in here, as I terrace it out, we used to have a trail through here, I can have spots for people to sit. I can have a fire pit down here. I can have a fire pit up there. So we can combine human use. Also, the black oaks will provide shade all year long, especially during the hottest time of the year. You really want that shade. And so people can sit outside comfortably, and we can still have a lot of density. I'm going to treat those black oaks like a big bonsai, because I don't want them to take over all the root area, because I want to provide root area for those fruit trees. So this is going to be some of the most intensive gardening that I'm going to be doing in here. Although I've got different rules I'm using for different spaces. And so, I know this land really well. I know the layout of it. I know how the water flows across it, how the wind flows across it, how the sun comes and into different groves of trees or areas. You know, I've got spots where they'd be perfect for human use. There's a little spot up here I could put a little cabin, you know, just a small one, and somebody could, you know, be like a monk and spend their time up there alone with nature. Big area, big project. So back to my concluding thing here. Even if you can't donate financially, or that's not your choice, you can still put me in contact with people, foundations, who like this kind of thing. I'm trying to do better at communicating what I'm doing here and why. But the rules, the template of what I'm coming up with will be useful in a lot of other places. I realize that there's many different climates. And so what I'm doing here, for example, is not applicable in a desert. Not directly. Although there's places where people have destroyed the land where there was forest, and now they have projects there to do the opposite, to turn it back into forest. That's true in a lot of the world, and it's very sad when you see the videos on that stuff. I mean, it's exciting to see that someone's trying. Well, what I'm trying to do is come up with rules for how we do these kinds of things, and then watch the results. I'm at year 17 now. It's 2021. I got here in 2004. So I've been doing this for 17 years, and I had a slow start, you know, because I was adjusting to the culture. I didn't speak the language, didn't have any friends, or know the community locally. And so it took quite a while to get going. And it's also taken a long time to watch the effects of when we cut a tree somewhere, what happens next. Like I cut some trees up here and they're just all growing back in. And I'm going to have to cut them again because I want to get internet to go from one building to a different building. But I've become more bold because I've learned more. I've become more understanding of how biodiversity works here. And so the kinds of things I'm learning aren't just to make one piece of land or to benefit me. You know, I'm sick of this project in terms of being alone a lot. And the pandemic is not helping with that. And I'm tired and I don't get a lot of support. And so that's why I'm asking for support. It's not just to benefit me here, it's to come up with, rediscover these totally different ways of doing agriculture, like they used to do them in British Columbia, like they used to do them in Brazil, they used to do them in the Yucatan, probably all over the world. There was cases where people did manage the land well, they did take care of it, and then there's a lot of examples of places where they didn't do that. They did not follow a set of ecological rules, and they turned their land into desert. And we're doing that more and more. You know, I mean, the Dust Bowl in the United States should have taught us something about that. But, you know, we're looking now at hotter times, less water. We're going to get more degraded land. And we're not going to have enough food. You know, wildfires are burning up the forests. And it's a sad, sad thing. So what you can do if you can't donate financially is you can forward this on to your friends. Liking and sharing posts really helps. Comment on them. Be part of it. I invite you to be part of this process. And if you don't agree on everything I'm doing, that's fine. We don't have to. I don't believe anyone in the world agrees with me on every weird thing I think. But I would hope that on agriculture, that we could get on the same page. Because the kind of things I'm dealing with here matter for a huge number of other places, and they matter for the future of our food survival. And as civilization becomes more and more untenable, as energy costs go up, a few solar panels are not going to fix that. Nuclear power is not a good idea, and that's a whole other conversation. We might disagree on that. That's an example of something we might disagree on. But the point is that there's no other project like this that I know of. There are other people trying different ways of doing things, but they're not trying it this way. And they don't have, I don't have an organization behind me. There's not a bunch of people in suits deciding things. I do own a suit somewhere, but I haven't worn it in probably about 8 or 9 years. Maybe I went to a wedding. I don't know. And so it's an independent project being, done by a very passionate guy. That would be me, and a few people who are helping out, and then being supported by some donors who are absolutely important. I would love to spend $300,000 on this project because I'm in a really fragile position right now. The van is going to die. I can't even get in and out of here at the moment, so I'm trapped. But I'm running it real cheap. I'm not wasting. And any technology decision I make, I was looking at chainsaws today online. I got a chainsaw already, but there was a small one I can use because I'm sculpting a forest up here that we're walking up to. And I'm doing similar things where I'm going to get a canopy of black oak and have spots for people in it. So yeah, I'm asking for your help. Hopefully some of the things I'm saying inspire you and they make you think about the natural world around you. Maybe you've got friends who have land. And maybe you can forward my ideas onto them and they can think about how they want to use land. I was even thinking about people like, Bill Gates has a bunch of land. He's the largest owner of farmland in the United States. And I guess he and Melinda might divide that up. But I think Jeff Bezos owns a bunch. And Kanye West has a ranch. And he was talking about a urine garden. Well, I've been doing a pea garden over here for years. I know about that, and I know things we can do. I know how we can do composting toilets like that one back there. I've got years of experience I would like to share with people who have more resources, and then they can borrow those ideas or steal them, whatever. I guess that's not theft, it's borrowing, which I would love it if they would do. Because some of the land that people like Bill Gates own is not actually farmland yet. A whole bunch of it's just machines destroying the soil and fertilizer. But an article I read mentioned that some of it is not being used as farmland, and he may wish to rewild some of it, to use some of these different methods and have wildlife in there and have biodiversity, more mycelia and mushroom activity. The reason I am tired and walking funny like this is because I broke my legs. I broke both my legs a couple years ago. So I'm still recovering from that. And it really was a major interruption. I spent about a year mostly in bed, and now I can still just kind of hobble around. But I'm ready to go again. I'm pumped up. I'm excited for this rainy season. We've done so well. I'm excited for the next one. If COVID will cooperate at all, then maybe next year in 2022, I'll have a team of people here. Some volunteers, maybe some paid, maybe some donating. And we can get a team of people and do so much work, without it being too much for any one person. But like that Tierra de Encino I mentioned, if somebody can do 10 wheelbarrow loads of Tierra de Encino and move it, that would be a huge benefit. So that's a great vision, is to involve other people directly. Also, I've got more local friends. Some of them are working in the States right now. They work in the wineries up there. And they'll be coming back in October, I believe. They're gone for about 8 months out of the year. And I would love to get them involved in the project. They're from here. They love the land around here. And they know that there's an urgency in protecting this land. Absolute urgency. I'm on the edge of deforestation right here. If you look on Google Earth, above me is forest and below me is not. generally speaking. Um, so that's another urgency that we have worldwide, and that's another reason why people like Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or these large landowners um, could use a set of rules that I'm coming up with and consider how to adjust those for their climate and for their needs, for their desires. But to have these amazing, you know, wild parks, and those can have people in them. I think that's one of the bigger things I think about is how can I have people who are in a forest, who have contact with nature, and they don't destroy it. And that's changing how we do things. Because when we look at those other cultures and how they treated the land, there's cultures that fell. They destroyed their land. They got too involved in big irrigation systems, and then if those fail, then they have a problem, or there could be, flooding, or they just deforest it because they decide to use too much wood for the wrong things. You know, wasn't the Iron Age after the Bronze Age? Because Europe ran out of wood, probably, something like that. And the Middle East used to be a beautiful, lush place, and now it's not. There's a big effort in Saudi Arabia to build a mile-long city, and hopefully that could then include with it reforesting around it. Um, in forests that may not look like this. There's different kind of spaces, even within the state that I'm in. I would love to partner with some people on the coast who have very different climates and have them be also doing similar things, but adjusted for their climate. So it's not one solution, but it's a set of ways of doing things. And the biggest thing we need to do is change ourselves and change our own behavior so that we don't just trample the entire world. Well, there's some thoughts for you. I look forward to your participation. I look forward to your friends participating. And wish me luck, because this is the hardest thing, and I'm tired. 17 years is a long time. And I came in with a lot of resources to invest, and those are all gone now. So definitely need some luck. Well, good luck to you in whatever you do and however you do it. There's a lot of solutions we can do in this world, and we're all in different positions. So